Hello, this is Nikki. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a card featuring some really great products from Tonic Studios. In particular, I want to show you a neat technique with embellishment mousse. So let's get started. The stamps that I'm going to use today is from Papertrey Ink. It's a Make It Market mini kit called Herb Garden. It comes with the stamps and dies. It's actually got some stencils in there as well. But for today, I'm just going to be using the mint leaf stamp and a few of the word stamps for my sentiment. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp the mint leaves. I'm going to be using dried oregano and lime burst Nuvo hybrid ink. The lime will be for the leaves, and I'll do the veins inside the leaves with the dried oregano. And I'm probably going to stamp maybe about 6 of these since I'm not sure how many I'm going to use in my card, so it's better to have some extra ones instead of not enough. I stamped each of these twice with the lime burst so I could get a nice bright green color, and that made it super easy to line up where the leaf vein details would go. To make the basis for my frame, I used 2 dies from Tonic Studios Square Layering Basics die set. I just taped them together and ran them both through my die cutter at the same time. And here I'm laying down my craft mat because this is going to get a little bit messy. So if you have one, go ahead and set it up. And if you don't, a scratch piece of cardstock will do just as well. What you want to do is give this a really good coating of some sort of double-sided adhesive. The stronger the better. The one that I'm using today is a Tombow Extreme Adhesive Runner. And I tell you, this stuff is crazy sticky. So it'll hang on to our little pure sheen gemstones really well. The ones I'm using today are the pearl rectangles from Nuvo. These are perfect for making a little faux mosaic because there's all different sizes in here. You got some large ones, you got some small ones, which is super cool because you don't have to buy several different jars of different kinds. Now the best way to put these on is using tweezers. These are my favorite tweezers. These are from Elizabeth Crafts, I think. I'll have a link below to them if you'd like to get yourself a pair. But these are my favorite tweezers. They are good for everything. So what I'm doing is placing these rectangles all along my frame. I'm leaving a little bit of space in between each one so the embellishment mousse has somewhere to go. So you get that grout sort of look when we spread it on there. I'm putting some of the rectangles on vertically, putting them some on horizontally, just going around the entire thing, making different types of patterns. It worked out that the large rectangles ended up being the same width as the frame itself. And then I could put together 2 or 3 of the smaller ones to fill in the little spaces in between. Once all the gemstones were in place, it was time for the fun part. The embellishment mousse I'm using today is called Black Ash, and it's one of my favorite color embellishment mousses. So I'm just going to scrape up a bunch of it here and put it down on my craft mat. I like to squish it around a little bit just to soften it so I can be sure to get in between all the gemstones. Now to apply the embellishment mousse onto your frame, you kind of just want to dab it and smoosh it in there. Make sure you get it in between all the little gemstones. You can go over it a couple of times if you need, but as long as you get most all of it covered, that'll be perfect. We're going to go over it with a paintbrush in just a bit just to make sure we get all the little corners. When you get it all covered, if it looks all smeary and messy, don't worry about it. We're going to clean that off a little bit with a wet microfiber cloth. I'm just going to wipe off my craft mat here and then we can take a look at the details. The next step is to clean up our gemstones. I'm using a damp microfiber cloth and a paintbrush here from Nuvo. And what I'm going to do is just smooth out the embellishment mousse with the paintbrush bristles. This gives it just a bit more of a finished look, and it gets all the little corners and things that I may have missed with the spatula. When it's looking all nice, I'm going to go ahead and take the microfiber cloth and I'm just going to carefully wipe the flat surfaces of all the gemstones. This helps them look a little more like mosaic pieces, and the embellishment mousse ends up looking a little more like grout. You can see how these are cleaning up super nice now. Be careful not to wipe too much because you'll end up wiping off most of the work you did with the embellishment mousse. So just be careful and do small areas at a time. You can even finish up with a cotton swab if you need, or scrape off any dried bits with the tips of your tweezers and then set it aside to dry. Okay, now to put this project together, I'm going to trim down a piece of white cardstock to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I have this gorgeous paper from Craft Perfect. It's called Gray Roses. I needed something a little silver to go along with my mosaic frame, and I wanted a paper with some sort of texture on it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead, stick these two together because the only thing that needs to be done on these pieces is to stamp the sentiment on the white cardstock. So then I found this really nice botanical print patterned scrapbook paper in my stash, and I thought I would like to use that instead of the white cardstock. Luckily, I kept the inner portion when I cut the frame, so I still had a space where I could stamp my sentiment without it being too busy in the center there, and I still had a space to tuck in all my mint leaves. So I'm using our completed fancy frame there to make sure I get the white square in the right place. And once it's adhered down, I'm going to pop it into my MISTI and I'm going to stamp the sentiment. I'm using VersaFine Pigment ink in Onyx Black today, and I'm going to stamp it twice just to make sure I get a good impression. Then the same thing for the second part of the sentiment. And now we're ready to put on that fancy frame. I'm going to use foam adhesive to put this on because I want it to bump up just a little bit from the background. And I would have used like strip adhesive, except that I couldn't find it in my stash because I'm still trying to sort out where everything goes in my craft room, so I keep misplacing things. So I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward through this because those little squares take a lot of time. Okay, now that that's on there, we can go ahead and start tucking in our little die cut mint leaves. Because I put these down with a dimensional adhesive, I can now tuck the stems of the mint in just in behind so it looks like it's popping out from inside the frame. I'm going to be using my favorite adhesive today, which is Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive. And I'll dab the ends of the stems into the little puddle I have here on my nail, which is a little trick from back in my quilling days. It's great for when you just need to apply glue to a very small area. That way you don't have a piece of paper or something off to the side where you can smush your hand into it and then get glue all over your project. And nobody got time for that. So all I really have left to do here now is to tuck the mint leaves all in around the frame. I added some more small foam squares to make sure some of the mint leaves didn't flatten out against the card, so they stayed up nice and three-dimensional like. The ones that are in the background, I'm still using Deluxe Adhesive to keep those still. Plus it gives me a little bit of wiggle room where I want to move them around to make sure I got them where I want them. And once I have all the mint leaves in place, I just need to adhere it to an A2 card base and my card is finished. I hope this inspires you to get out your embellishment mousse and try something new. I've got the supplies for this particular card in the comment section below. If you don't want to miss any more of my crazy experiments, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.